I'm saying things. Man, technical difficulties.
This man.
Pausing.
Somebody says you have such a nice voice today.
Somebody says I have a nice face for radio. Yeah. Also a nice voice.
This is so irritating. We have
iRig.
we have no sound whatsoever on the stream.
No.
Oh.
Do we have sound in the recording? Yes, it's coming through here.
Oh yeah, no, it's coming
It's not
through.
going
It's just
through
it's
there.
not picking up. The iRig is for some reason not picking up anything at all.
All right, we're gonna have some whiskey. Whiskey break, everyone. Cheers.
Somebody says you have such a nice voice today.
Somebody says I have a nice face for radio. Yeah. Also a nice voice.
This is so irritating. No sound whatsoever.
We love you, Ethan.
Okay, what we're gonna do is probably just end up killing this stream. Oh yeah, no, it's coming through. It's just it's not picking up. I don't want to hear myself talk.
Oh. It came up there.
Talk.
Talking. Saying words. Saying words that have very little meaning at this point.
Nope, they're good.
Yep.
We're alive.
My words do have meaning.
Holy smokes.
Well, but they do have sound. Okay, should I play the intro music again?
Yes.
It's amazing that our first episode went nearly without a hitch. And that was the one we were most nervous about. And a year into this, our iRig completely lets us down. So thank you for those of you that are still here after a year and 5 minutes. That's a long time to... We don't have callers, so got it. Yep, everybody's still here. Okay, sorry. iRig just failed us for the second time. We did have backups. We do believe in redundancy, but sorry for you guys who are watching live. We are going from the native iPhone audio So if you want great audio without this beautiful face later, you can listen on whatever platform you get your audio podcasts. I guess if you grow weed, that's what you would call a show.
Podcast, yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, or a cooking show. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for bearing with us. And we're going to have some fun tonight. What are we going to do other than have fun when it starts out this way? So, okay. Ethan,
Yeah.
what have we learned this year? One, iRig sucks. So if anyone has a better solution for getting great pre-mixed audio to a phone for a live stream other than iRig, we're all ears, no pun intended.
Yeah. No, iRig has been nothing but a thorn in our side for the past year.
For the past year.
Very impetus of this podcast. It's been bad.
Impetus? This is a Michael Scott word right there.
Sorry, yeah, my bad.
No, that's not.
Hey, but we have learned quite a bit though.
Impetus, the force or energy with which a body moves.
Yeah.
From the very force of this podcast.
The very conception is perhaps a better word. Is that better? Does that work better for you?
What word were you looking for?
Genesis, I believe, was the word I was looking for.
All right.
Impetus, yeah, not that.
Michael Scott.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so Doug had reached out to me a while before we actually went live with this podcast and asked if I had any desire or experience with podcast production, which I hadn't, but I was happy to learn it. And
you had a marketing degree.
I had a marketing degree from a school. And
you understand sound.
And I understood how
technology.
Sound works. I had produced some music at that point in time.
Yep. You had your own album.
I did. It was
Shout
it was
out.
an EP.
Where is it?
You can listen to Ethan Huffnagel on Spotify, Apple Music, same places you can listen to Emily and Ivory, as it turns out. But so I had some experience with sound. Doug had reached out to me, asked if I would be interested in producing anything like a podcast, and he wanted it to be a call-in podcast, which took us a while to figure out how that software would work. But we did. We figured it out.
And it worked. Yeah.
We had a number of test streams. We had some fun. There's some fun footage from some of those pilot episodes that we did. And they went well enough for us to not bail on the whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
We stuck with it. And a year later, we're still doing it. Like you had said when the sound was out, so I don't think anyone could hear you.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, our first episode went remarkably better than this episode is going in terms of production. But regardless, we made it a year, and we've actually seen a good deal of growth, not only on the YouTube channel or our Facebook page, which is what I'm assuming anyone who's watching this right now as we're talking is probably watching it on, I would hope.
Yeah. And so let's touch for a moment on that. So YouTube is very interesting, as is Facebook and all those social medias, because of their algorithms, which I'm not going to try to begin to understand or explain. But it's not linear growth.
Mm-mm.
And it's almost unexplainable how one episode does really well and another one doesn't, versus the audio platforms where we've experienced just steady
100%, 100%, which has been cool to see for two people who had never ever produced a podcast before. Like you kind of alluded to just there, our YouTube and social media growth sometimes not so much recently, but maybe 6 months ago had a tendency to plateau fairly frequently, and there was no predicting what videos would do well, which would garner us more subscribers, more viewers, more followers, whatever it might be.
Right. And the end goal of that is not that in and of itself, but to use the gain in followers and subscribers and views as a measure of what is interesting to you, the viewers, because all that feedback is not for our own ego. It's to say, what are we doing well? What do you like? And what can we do better? Like, how do we make content that resonates with our viewers. And so it's very tough to gauge that when the social medias are hand picking who sees what.
For sure. Especially when algorithms that go into Facebook choosing what appears where on people's feeds. You can't measure it. There's no real way to know what's going to work and what doesn't until you throw the mud against the wall and you actually see what sticks.
So what's been working from an audio podcast platform? How do we look there? And
so from an analytical perspective, the audio podcast, like you said, has done far better than the video podcast, at least in terms of consistent growth. So what we've seen in terms of platform distribution, most people are listening on, as I think we kind of suspected going into this, Apple Podcasts and Spotify in particular is where more than half.
Those are the only two I've ever heard of.
Well, I'm looking at a list right now, and I've not heard of more than half of these things. But apparently there are other platforms.
Is there a podcast platform?
Yeah, they may be, but if you're listening,
do they have to be real careful about who's on there? Do they have to weed out their subscribers?
Where's the drum kit? You got it.
It's right here.
You got it. It's facing the wrong way, man. Well done.
That joke will grow on you.
But yeah, hey, shout out to all of our listeners from Overcast and Castbox and Pocket Casts and all those places. Castbox, yeah, that's an interesting.
That's opposite of Boxcast.
Not related to Boxcast.
Boxcast is a proud sponsor of SwitchCast.
Castbox is not a sponsor. Not a sponsor.
No, but Boxcast is.
Absolutely.
And we're happy to have them.
We love
without them, we wouldn't be to you right now, live.
We are
in
live.
person.
Yeah.
So something I've noticed, at least from the tubes of you, is a little bit into this, we made a push to kind of get some bigger name guests on the show. And some of those were for the name themselves. Some of them were just interesting to me. Tim Cotton was one of my favorite guests. Not necessarily, in the Venn diagram of automotive enthusiasts versus people that follow the Bangor Police Department on Facebook. It's a small overlap.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite episodes ever. And it didn't get a ton of views. In fact, to me, it surprised me because I just did a Q&A Hail Mary the next week because I didn't have a guest, and it got more views than Tim Cotton. And to me, that's silly because I'd far rather hear somebody other than myself talk. And the most surprising thing out of all of this is how well the general Q&A sessions go, or the Doug rants.
Yes.
Because, golly, my wife just starts rolling her eyes and, this fog comes over her when I talk. But
no, the Q&As do exceptionally well. Why do you, you said you have no idea, but if you had to guess, what is the reason that they do well? Is it your sphere of influence? What is it?
Maybe. I don't know. I get around. It's a joke, sphere of influence, round.
Yeah. No,
get it?
It's good.
Joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not my dad jokes that is the reason.
I never know.
Scams are always popular.
The Scam Week episode is to date one of our most popular ones. Yeah. For both. That was one of the rare ones that saw success on both the audio and the video format. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I've become known as the scam sniffer, I guess, on VinWiki too. So, better than sniffing other things, but.
Well, speaking of VinWiki, the Ed episode, we did notice, and we anticipated a theme with Cannonball episodes, whether or not it was someone who actually had done or attempted cannonballs or someone who just kind of runs in that community. Those episodes, as anticipated, do very, very well.
Yeah.
Both.
They're the best stories. Those are, Jay Roberts, the Prius solo cannonballer, Steve
Brown's story of the musket ball is just one of my all-time favorite moments. If you haven't watched Steve Brown's episode, please do go back and watch it.
Scott Bauer is a tour de force of humor in real life. He is he's exactly the same in life as he is on camera, if not more animated.
He's Jim Carrey.
He's friggin' Jim Carrey
He's
on
Jim
Ace.
Carrey,
He's Ace Ventura, but it's like Scott Bauer is almost more entertaining than Scott Bauer as Ace Ventura.
Well,
It's and Cannonball stuff doesn't do that well on VinWiki historically, but the stories are incredible, and we love having those guests on. I'm glad to see that's appreciated by our viewers as well.
Yes.
Because those are absolutely the best stories.
There's a lot of heart behind those stories and behind the guests that come on and tell those stories. But not to say that there's not heart and conviction from other guests. Taylor Hall was an episode that we did when we were in Birmingham that was incredibly fascinating to listen to and to watch, yet maybe didn't do as well in terms of numbers as I think either of us thought it was going to.
Well, and to that point, Myron Vernus, who's a well-known name in the car industry, that was probably the highest ratio of, I got more feedback from people on Myron's episode that was just incredible. His wealth of knowledge is amazing, and people just wanted to listen to him. But the views were fairly low. So if I gauged it based off of how many views we got on YouTube, it was pretty pathetic. But from all the personal feedback I got, that was probably the most personal feedback I got of, man, that episode was great. Myron was great.
Yeah.
And we are going to do another one with Myron. We're probably going to do one at his facility because he has one of the most oddball, crazy collections of cars on the planet. So we'll do an episode there.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the, not the impetus, but the genesis of the whole SwitchCast on the road idea and why season 2 we decided to kind of maybe gear in a little bit of a different direction?
Yeah. So part of it was difficulty of getting guests to us in Cleveland, especially in the winter, because I am, and I think I still am, committed to a live format, right? I don't like watching podcasts that are Zoom episodes, right? Like to me, that is too reminiscent of what COVID did to us. It took away the personal interaction of life and put everything on Zoom. And the split screen thing, I'm like, it's not the same. Like, you watch the news now and you have split screen and there's a delay there. And I'm just like, there's nothing like in-person interaction.
Yeah.
So in order to get guests that didn't necessarily want to come to Cleveland but wanted to be on the show, I said, okay, fine, I'm going to go to you. And in the process, have a really fun adventure of like, man, all these great places I get to visit. And honestly, that was incredibly fun, and I'd like to do more of that. And I think we will, just because I love going places and seeing different automotive service shops, collections, museums, whatever, like seeing in person what people are doing. I think there's maybe some opportunity for a vlog of some sort attached to that. Because again, on the podcast you can talk about it, but you don't get to really see and feel what's going on.
Right,
So,
which is kind of what we tried to do with when we went out to New England and we hung out with Rapazzi out there. We kind of did an entire an entire vlog of sorts at his shop, and that whole weekend kind of, and then we also did an episode shot on location at his shop.
And that was one of the greatest car weekends ever.
It was phenomenal.
It was
and we
amazing.
actually someone literally just commented as I'm saying this that they loved the one with Matt Rapazzi. So
Yeah, Jimmy Rapazzi.
Right, yes. Sam Steiner, Jimmy Rapazzi is, I believe, who you meant.
Yes. Yeah, and there was so much more to that weekend, so many more. Like, out of that one episode, there's probably 3 or 4 people that we want to go back to and do a vlog from that Redshifts car, what do you call that? Storage membership social club place.
The place that we went on
Yeah,
Sunday.
I can't remember the name of
I
it,
don't remember
but
it either,
you know, with
but-
Matthew Ivanhoe from the Cultivate Collector,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
all the stuff we got to see, the personalities, the wealth of knowledge, the inside look at the car business, at car collecting. Like this is what we want to bring to you, the viewer, is an inside look at what really goes on behind just the Instagram photos and what you see little snippets of is the real people and the operations behind all these crazy cars and what we all love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the stories behind them, because there's so many. Something else we learned, let's see, just about general operations. Spectrum sucks balls.
Yeah,
they still do.
They do suck balls.
I mean,
This
just
is
trying
confirmed.
to do this tonight, it was checking the network.
Apologies,
Constantly.
by the way, everyone who's watching this right now. Apologies for how long it took us to get started, to give you a stream that doesn't even have quality audio. If you want to listen to the quality audio, please do listen to the podcast,
Yes.
The audio podcast. But Spectrum
This is checking the network and
for about 15 minutes.
A network, I mean, it should be called a not work.
There it is. He was workshopping that one before we went live.
He was.
It was good.
How'd it go?
Yeah. No, the delivery.
DistroKid also has no clue. So they managed the
tell that story.
copyright. They managed the copyright for a band that I'm in, Emily and Ivory, and I'm
in it as well.
yes, Ethan is also in it. And so I'm their drummer, and I'm on the recordings. I don't know if I have like artist credit or whatever, or writing credit. I don't know. Don't care. But whatever. I'm in the copyright, and we obviously have express permission to use Emily and Ivory's music for our bumper music. But DistroKid, who manages our copyright, filed a copyright claim against one of our episodes in YouTube.
Yeah, got demonetized. And
got demonetized on that episode. But the funnier thing was I wanted to say, okay, they're doing a really great job because they're protecting our copyright.
Yes.
But they literally, in 45 episodes, they've only filed one copyright claim.
It is
so
bizarre.
They're doing a terrible job.
Yeah. Yeah, part of me wants to commend them for their due diligence they've done, but also, hey, we've been using that song we've been using 2 of Emily and Ivory's songs for a whole year now, and you caught us once.
With permission.
With permission, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've had fun, and we're going to keep going as long as we can, as long as you are there. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you want to see in year 2? Do you want to see more guests? Do you want more ranting, more dad jokes, more just general Q&A, more interaction with the viewers? We're here for you because without you, we're not here. I mean, I guess we are, but it's just a self-serving, me talking into a camera with nobody on the other end.
It could be entertaining.
Hey, people do that.
That's just called conversation. That's all that is.
Monologue, yeah. So, post in the comments, hit us up, let us know if there's a guest you want to have us have on, or just general format. Yeah, we want to hear it.
Do you have any thoughts on the future? I know we've talked quite a deal about the podcast, but do you want to share at all of what you anticipate the future of SwitchCast is going to be, your vision for it?
It's a surprise, and they have to keep listening.
It's good. Yeah.
Tune in next episode to find out.
Sorry, guys, I tried.
We are also looking for sponsors for the next year, the next season of SwitchCast. So if you think your company would be a good fit for our ever-growing audience,
Spectrum and iRig, please withhold your applications.
Yes,
for
correct.
sponsor, yeah.
We do only want sponsors that companies that we believe in ourselves. I'm not going to sell out, I promise. Anything I endorse on here will be something that I believe in. Also, a company that pays me, but it has to be
That's
both
besides the point.
and.
Both
and. It's not besides the point, but yeah. So if you think you'd be a good fit, hit us up. Yes, and speaking of sponsors, Celebrity Machines is a proud sponsor of SwitchCast. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they appeared in movies and TV shows like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates and could make yours, as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. Side note, I got a text from my buddy Josh Basante that the Twinsburg Police and Fire Open House, they had our 2539 plate on display in their police seized Corvette C5 police car at the open house. So, but when the scofflaws get some love from the other side of the fence there. But anyway, visit celebritymachines.com for more info and use promo code SwitchCast to save 25.39% at checkout. Again, use promo code SwitchCast at celebritymachines.com. And speaking of streaming, Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people part of the experience. If you're looking to attempt, Boxcast is an easy, flexible live streaming platform for organizations. It's so easy, we're broadcasting this show with a phone. It would be easier if we had a better iRig adapter, or not iRig adapter, for sound. Head over to switchcars.com/boxcast for your free trial. All right, welcome back to our 1-year anniversary show at SwitchCast. If you would like to join us and interact with us, feel free to post your comments, questions, threats, statements, whatever you got in the comment flow of where you're watching live. And my boy Tyler, who drives a green 968 that's one of 16 remaining in the U.S., very proud of it, with a graphite gray interior, will be relaying the questions to us with his wonderful radio voice. All right. I kid. So speaking of police seized vehicles, this is a very controversial topic, and rightly so. So there's an article this week that the Texas DPS, that's the Department of Public Safety, that's their acronym for the cops, state troopers, they got 1,000 horsepower Challenger that they seized through civil asset forfeiture. So my buddy Sean Petter had an interesting perspective on that, because essentially it was, okay, so I'm all about catching criminals and prosecuting and writing tickets and stuff, but they basically seized a vehicle for speeding that they're going to then use to catch speeders. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Like, I think we all think it's cool when we see a cop car that's a cool car, right? So, like, Twinsburg has a Corvette C5 police car, and that thing is, like, it's BA, right? I want to drive it around with lights and sirens going. It's super cool when they do burnouts in it. Like, yeah, it's really, really cool. And I think in some aspects, there's a good reason for it, right? So maybe they got it from a drug dealer, or it was a stolen vehicle, or in some manner they acquired it in a good way, right? So like when I used to work at a Land Rover dealership, the Summit County Sheriff had an old Range Rover that they had seized and were always using, but they weren't always using it. It was always in service at the dealership because, let's be honest, it was a mid-90s Range Rover. So it probably costs the taxpayers more than the Range Rover was worth to keep it going. But, the whole civil asset forfeiture thing is a real sticky subject. A lot of departments are seizing vehicles involved in street racing now, which I think is complete BS. Like, why does the police department have a right to take like a $50,000 or $100,000 vehicle for something that's maybe a $2,000 or $5,000 offense? Right? Like reckless op, $1,000, you get a lawyer, you plead it down. Like if you have a DUI, right? Arguably a DUI is far more dangerous than street racing. If you have a DUI, you get to keep your car. Then they just get to take your car. $100,000 car. It's theirs. And then they're going to use it to then catch speeders, which I've watched enough police chase videos to know how it's going to end with a cop driving a 1,000 horsepower Challenger. It's going to get wrecked because most of those guys can't even handle a friggin' Crown Vic. And it's not to make fun of cops. They need more training. But don't friggin' give a cop who hasn't gone through firearms training an Uzi and be like, go catch bad guys. I don't know. And then the whole civil asset forfeiture thing, I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to get into the legality of it, but I've read some of the situations in which police justify civil asset forfeiture, and it scares me because I find it highly suspect and unconstitutional. And the problem is it's a guilty until proven innocent scenario. Because if they determine that, well, we can seize this under the civil asset forfeiture laws, then you have to hire an attorney and prove that you can, like, deserve to get whatever was yours back. And oftentimes you don't get all of it back. And probably cash is the biggest biggest item of controversy, right? So a lot of people think that if you're carrying more than 10 grand cash, then it's illegal to carry more than 10 grand across state lines. And I actually thought that because I was on a plane once next to a guy who was going out to California to buy a Chevy Impala SS. And it was like 14 grand. So he bought his friend a plane ticket and they each carried 7 grand because he's like, well, I can't carry more than 10 grand on a plane. And I was like, okay, that sucks. And I kind of always assumed that was a thing. And I think people do because of the rule with the IRS where if a business takes more than $10,000 in payments, they have to file a form with the IRS. Now, it's not illegal. I could take $100,000 cash in a car. I just have to notify the IRS that I did it to make sure that there's no money laundering or whatever, illegal money happening. To make sure that those people... Yeah, it's money laundering. They don't really care. IRS doesn't even care if they obtained it by illegal means as long as they paid their taxes. So it's not even a drug dealing thing. They could have stolen the money as long as they paid 25% to the IRS. But right, so that there's this weird $10,000 threshold that's highly misunderstood. And a little while ago I looked it up because I go, man, I'm carrying cash all the time to go buy cars or whatever, and I got pulled over a couple times in different states, and cops asked me, do you have anything like large amounts of cash or firearms? And I just answered no. But the more I learn about it, the more I go, the cop, I mean, he can ask that, but I don't have to answer that because both of those things are legal. But if I say yes, I'm carrying a large amount of cash, then I open myself up to a search, to an unconstitutional seizure. And I was talking with my team about this because they travel a fair amount to buy cars with cash legitimately. Like, we withdraw it from the bank, we have a receipt, they go buy a car that somebody owns legitimately, sign off the title. And I'm like, guys, if you get pulled over with this amount of cash, don't say anything because you don't have to. And I don't want to have to fight to go get 40 grand back and spend 20 grand in legal fees to get 40 grand back from a cop. So the whole civil asset forfeiture thing is a real sticky situation. I'd love to have a constitutional attorney on to discuss that thing. But yeah, so Texas DPS got a 1,000 horsepower Challenger through civil asset forfeiture. I'm sure there's a little more to the story. But from what I read of the article, like, he ran from cops, but it wasn't stolen, it wasn't acquired through drug money or whatever. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah. There's a whole episode on that probably, but interested to hear all y'all's thoughts, as they say down south. But yeah, speaking of carrying large amounts of cash to go buy a car, and ethics, which we talked about a couple weeks ago with Ed, or was that last week? I don't know. Time flies. So my guys went all the way to South Carolina this week to buy 2 cars one of which was at a dealer, and they got there, and it was totally misrepresented. And they're like, dude, come on. Like, why'd you even try? And they walked away from that one. But the other one was a private seller, and we got a certified check for the guy. He knew we were coming. We had agreed on a price, got a certified check. I think we had sent him a deposit. Drove all the way from Ohio with a truck and trailer. He knew we were coming, and when the guys were 2 hours away, now this is, mind you, like a 10-hour drive. When they were 2 hours away, he texted them and was like, nah, sorry guys, I changed my mind. Don't want to sell the car. Yeah. If a dealer did that, we'd be in all sorts of hot water. But people can just change their mind like that. No regard for people's time or consideration or anything like that. My guess is he sold it to somebody else for more money. Because that's usually what happens. Not always, but...
I had a dude that I went to go try to buy a 924 in Cincinnati, and he called me as I was getting on the highway. That was like, I sold it to a guy down the street, I want to keep it local, blah, blah, blah. But it was like 2 weeks of me trying to figure out if it was legit, if it was a good car, like whatever else, because the photos are on Craigslist and super crappy. So at least he called me before I left, but
yeah,
that would have sucked if I was in Columbus.
And you took 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
right?
This wasn't
like
like
my
a
guys,
thing.
like they found the car, they called them, they made a deal, they were on their way 48 hours later.
Oh
So,
yeah, that was much faster.
like,
Yeah, past Tyler did not move as quickly on things.
past Tyler. All right, what we need to segue. What do we got from the listeners? What kind of trash talk we getting into here?
I don't think there's too much trash talk, but Tanzil says, "Hey
Try
Doug,
harder.
will V10 Lamborghinis ever become loved by collectors, or should one simply drive the piss out of their Huracans without concern of miles because they won't ever become collectible?" Someone has commented.
What's the next big thing?
Someone responded that says there's too many Huracans, which I tend to agree with.
Florida believes there's too many hurricanes too. They get crappy flooding from hurricanes. I'm gonna buy a Lamborghini Huracan and just get a license plate that says Ian.
Should get one, guaranteed at least 10 of them were flooded down there, so just get one of those. And
Yeah, right. Yeah, yes, they made too many to become collectible. Regardless of whether or not they would become collectible, you should drive a car and drive the piss out of it because you will have more enjoyment. And truly collectible cars, people have no regard for mileage, right? So there's like the in-between cars, like Ford GTs, right? They made 4,400 of them, and people are nutty about MSO, number of owners, miles, blah, blah, blah. You get into real collector cars like Ferrari 250 GTOs and short wheelbase California Spiders, nobody ever asks about the mileage. Who cares? And FYI, Huracans aren't going to be collectible, so the more you drive it, the less it will cost you to own on a relative scale. So the guy who only puts 5,000 miles on his Huracan because he's trying to save it for the next guy, it'll cost him like $10 a mile to own. And if you put 50,000 miles on it, it'll cost you like $2 to own. And I'm not just pulling those numbers out of thin air. I remember distinctly when there was like a 50 or 100,000 mile Gallardo Spider for sale a while back for $105,000, and the market for a low mile one was $125,000. And I'm just like, who's the idiots here? It's not the guy that put 100,000 miles on his Gallardo and is only selling it for $20,000 less than everybody else who didn't drive their car. He enjoyed that car and he got his money's worth out of it. So my advice always is for people to put a piece of tape over the odometer and just drive it.
No, and I love that. I love...
It's bitch and moan night on...
There's some sass coming from the Peanut Gallery.
From the Peanut Gallery. Okay. Send your comments through the live stream. It's always bitch and moan night on SwitchCast. Absolutely. It's soapbox night.
I always remember when our mutual friend John Sabo, when I told him how many miles I had put on my 911 at some point earlier this year, he was like, "Dude, you could put that into a lake and still come out on top." He's
Yeah.
like, it's like, I think I'm almost below $1 a mile at this point in purchase and maintenance.
His
enjoy it.
phrase is, that car owes you nothing.
Yes.
And that's the best feeling to have, is when you've gotten so much enjoyment out of a car that if you put it into a lake, it owes you nothing. And it's a very freeing feeling. I think that's what I want people to experience, right? So when you're holding onto a car and trying to preserve it for the next guy, I understand that sentiment, right? We're not all rich enough to be able to put a car into a lake. And we don't actually, it's figure of speech. But when you can release yourself of that, of counting every mile, of agonizing over every rock chip, and say, I don't care about the next guy, I'm having fun with this car, it's an amazing feeling.
No, totally agree. It's how I treat both of mine, and I can't imagine any other way.
Yeah.
Like I've made so many memories. Just took the 968 with the amazing gray interior that you like to lambast constantly to Rhode Island. It was like 1,300 miles.
It's an easy target.
Nah, it's fine.
Okay, so I do want to address this, right? So somebody last week asked about the R34 GTRs and whether or not the R33 and 32 would go up in value once the R34s became legal. And my stance here, and I probably come down a little too hard on people, probably especially on that guy, I'm sorry, is that cars are not investments, right? Cars aren't investments, cars aren't investments. Just enjoy. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit and say they can be. They can be. Some of them are. It's a very, very small selection of cars that can be investments. But in order to talk about cars as investments, we have to define what an investment is, right? So in a certain contracted period of time, a lot of cars will vastly outperform traditional investments. So there's an analogy somebody gave on BAT of Ford GT versus Ford stock, right? So Ford GT in the last 10 years has vastly outperformed Ford stock, right? But that's one car and one single stock. But that also requires proper timing of the market, right? You have to buy it at the right time and sell it at the right time. Very few cars go up in value continuously over a long period of time, and even at that, enough to offset maintenance costs, storage, insurance, et cetera, But I don't believe timing is a traditional, a good investment doesn't require timing, right? So you have day traders, but they're not investors, they're day traders. So if you're investing for your retirement, you're putting money in a mutual fund that grows over time. It ebbs and flows, but over a long period of time, it's a stable, safe place for your money to grow. And in general, the vast majority of cars are not that. And if you're trying to get the timing right in order for your cars to be good investments, that's not an investment. That's day trading. That's arbitrage. That's whatever you want to call it. That's not a traditional investment. And as far as timing goes too, good luck timing the market perfectly, right? So to rephrase a saying of Warren Buffett, if other people are talking about cars as investments, they aren't. Cars are only really good investments when nobody else thinks they are. So right now, everybody's talking about cars as investments because they've gone up 50, 100, 300% in the last 2 years. But do you want to buy when everybody else is talking about them as great investments when they've been going up? Or do you want to buy them when nobody else cares, right? So the Warren Buffett saying is, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. The last 2 years, everybody's been being greedy. Brain fart. Hate this when this happens. Yep, okay, had a great point to the, gold, right? So the other thing you have to consider when looking at cars as investments is who is telling you that they're a good investment. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to say 99 times out of 100, when I see people say, and I hate this phrase, I literally just saw on the Corvette Buy Sell Trade Facebook group page today, this car will only go up in value. I'm like, even stocks don't only go up in value, they go up and down. But I'm like, the person telling you that it will only go up in value has a financial interest in you buying into his sales pitch. It's like people peddling gold.
Didn't you say at one point that if it was only going to go up in value, they would just keep it?
Right. Exactly. And take a loan out on it. If it was a guaranteed thing, like I don't believe in debt, but I don't believe in debt because of the risk factor. If things were guaranteed, I'd leverage every single friggin' thing I had and buy guaranteed investments. If it's a sure thing, it's a sure thing. But they aren't a sure thing. So you have to look at who's trying to tell you their investments. If it's somebody selling the car or selling the investment, it's a conflict of interest. Like, come on. That's why you don't buy whole life insurance, because the person selling you whole life insurance gets a huge fat commission off of you buying the quote unquote investment. That's terrible. So cars can be investments, but you have to know what you're talking about. Yeah. All right, back to questions. Off my soapbox.
That leads into another, not a question, more of a comment. Taillight Express just requests more Corvette owner / buyer stories.
I mean, you can skip the middleman and just go to the Corvette Buy Sell Trade Facebook group and set up alerts for their posts and just spend half an hour a day on there. That's all the entertainment you need. But if you don't want to do that, I'll continue to filter that content through to here.
It's going to be the scam episodes and then the Corvette Buy Sell Trade Group
It's so
episodes.
easy.
Like,
They're the worst. They're the worst. I bought a Corvette today too.
oh, is it a C5?
It's a C4. It's a supercharged C4.
Mark Spence wants to know your location.
I need to start, for those of you that don't know, but you should know by now, Mark Spence is a Tinder blunder.
A what?
Whatever those dating social network app things are that you swipe.
The Tinder and Bumble? Well, Bumble, I think the girl has to reach out to you.
Okay.
He's on Tinder all the time.
Whatever. He is a Mark Spence is a Tinder superstar. He loves it.
He was swiping at the airport in Atlanta when we were on the
He
way to
swipes
Amelia.
while he wipes. He was swiping on his Cannonball, his coast to coast to coast Cannonball with Nick and Wes. He was swiping on the way out west, and then he would get matches on the way back east. I don't know what he thought he was gonna do. Like, hey, drop me off. This one's a real winner. Put me on the side of the road. But anyway. I don't even know where I was going with it. Oh, yeah. So I should make up car profiles and just like figure out like female and just have them all be Corvette C4s and like GMC Typhoons and try to get Mark matched with Spence and just swipe until Mark gets a boom with a Corvette.
You know that if he's swiping and he sees a C4 come up, he's swiping without even thinking.
We should just, can we get a model to pose in front of some 80s, 90s GM products and make fake profiles just to troll Mark?
That would be amazing. We go buy a bunch of old calendars from flea markets or whatever.
Give him to him for Christmas.
Oh, goodness. The terrible ideas that are hatched on SwitchCast.
I hope he listens to this.
Okay.
Mark, we love you.
All right, next
Moving
up.
on.
Sam S. I like this question. I do know the answer. Hey, Doug, what's your favorite generation of the GT3?
I mean, there's only two. There's the 996 and the 997. I like the 997 better.
That was a hot take, but what about the 991? Do you not consider that real?
I'm sorry, what? Flappy paddles?
Oh.
Non-Metzger? I shouldn't say that. The 992 GT3 is friggin' gorgeous. And that's a heck of a car. But I think the 996 and the 997 were like the true driver's cars where they didn't do stuff for you. The 997 didn't even have stability control. It just had traction control. Like, that's like, I mean, Porsche was right at the like late 90s General Motors technology right there with traction control only. That's Porsche saying we want to sell to Corvette owners. No, I 997. That's it. That's it. I mean, I'm sitting right in front of a 997 GT3. It's the best one. It's the best one. The best sound.
Yep.
996 is a wee bit more fun to drive. A wee bit. But
Just less nannies, as they say. Or
yeah, it's just more engaging.
it's a little smaller.
It's
too,
not
I think.
about the nannies, it's about the suspension design. And the 997 was better, but it was more refined. That's always, I mean, that's the trajectory of any cars. They get better and they get more refined. They get better and more refined. And everybody has to find their happy place where they say, this is the right level of raw versus refinement to me. Because you could go back and say, well, a 1915 Stutz is the ultimate driver's car because there's no synchro gearboxes and no assisted brakes or anything, so you feel the road. Yeah, you do feel the road, but not in a good way. But everybody has that line of how much is too much refinement. To me, I think the 997, both in the GT3 and the regular 911, was like the perfect, like honestly after 2010-ish, or I'd say any design after 2010, I struggle to care about, because I think there was a line that was crossed in automotive technology that it started doing things for you too much. And like the Nissan GTR was at the forefront of that. It was 2009 it was released, 2008 actually. And it was an amazing car from a technological standpoint. And I put 10,000 miles on one, but I do not miss it one bit. Because it had no soul, it had no personality, there was nothing memorable about it. It did awesome things, and Porsche guys made fun of it, but then they jumped both feet in when Porsche did the exact same thing with the 991 GT3. Hey, we made a car that's a hero car and does everything for you. And I don't know, I think they lost me at that. All the manufacturers did. So, yeah, that was a long answer to a short question.
Next up is Sam P. They say, I know cannonballing as a subject is hard to always talk about, but those are always my favorite. You inspired me on our recent run, and we were thrilled to see you like the post in the C2C group.
Which run was that? I'm sorry. Gotta start back.
I do not.
Who was it?
Sam Pat.
Sam Pat. Sam Pat. Well, I like cannonballing. I'm happy for anyone who does a run. Whether or not it's a record, it doesn't matter. I tell everybody this. Ed said it in different words. It's essentially just a challenge for yourself, and something I think everybody who's interested in cannonball needs to do. Like at the cannonball reunion, our expert panel was asked, like, what does it take to do a cannonball? And I said, you go to the Red Ball and you drive to the Portofino. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It doesn't matter who goes. It doesn't matter what car. You just do it to do it for yourself. And a lot of people have this like big hurdle where I'll never be able to do a cannonball. I don't have enough money. I don't have a fast enough car. Fine. Types of records, sub-records have been set in a Prius, in a Saab, in a Lexus LS. Like, who cares? Just go do it.
Well, that's what someone walked up to us at one of the events when we were at the Audrain Motor Week, and we're like, how did you get started? How do I get started? And your answer is just to do it. Get a car that will make it. Or not.
Or not.
And go.
Figure it out. Yeah, it's part of the adventure. I've not made it as many times as I've made it. Oh, all right. A word from our sponsors. We love our sponsors. Nathan's Detailing is a proud sponsor of SwitchCast. Nathan's Detailing is a company in Cleveland, Ohio that provides mobile detailing services for individuals and dealerships. They also offer PPF and ceramic coating installations. With over 800 Google reviews and an impressive 4.9 star rating, Nathan's Detailing is the go-to shop for all of your detailing and protection needs. With Nathan's Detailing, convenience is key. Their mobile detailing technicians bring the power, water, and supplies to your home or work and detail your car on site. Check out the link in our description for a free interior fabric protection or leather conditioning with your purchase. At Nathan's Detailing, this smiles for you. Well, thank you guys again for being here. And let's see, we haven't done a question of the week in a little bit. But yeah, I want to give away a t-shirt tonight or two because it's our 1 year anniversary. So I don't know, the best comment in the next 15 minutes gets a t-shirt. Courtesy of Nuts for Sticks. Yeah, Nuts for Sticks is the enthusiast. Nope. Yeah, switch cars. Nuts for Sticks is a sweet merchandise site that has great automotive related dad joke t-shirts and stickers. Yeah, we're Nuts for Stickers also. You can go to nutsforsticks.com and use discount code SwitchCast to get 10% off your merchandise order. And so best comment in the next 15 minutes wins a t-shirt pack of at least one. I do want to talk a little bit about, let's see, it wouldn't be a SwitchCast episode without an update on Carvana. That's been like a consistent theme of this year, right? We've talked about scams. I feel like Carvana is basically just a publicly traded scam. So they have previously had their license pulled in Illinois, I think Indiana, and I don't know if they had it pulled in Florida, but they had some sanctions in Florida. Now somebody commented, well, they're independently operated, so everybody runs under different rules. But I also firmly believe that excuse the French, shit rolls downhill. So if stuff at the top is not right, then that's going to be reflected down the line. And just this week, I couldn't ask for this if I tried. Carvana, one of the Carvanas in Novi, Michigan, had its license revoked. That's darn right. It was suspended. They had 112 different title delays, 127 probation violations. That's not like they hired people that were on probation or whatever, but they were already under close scrutiny from the Department of Motor Vehicles because they had so many complaints, and they were on probation for different violations, and they did not rectify those issues, so they had their license suspended. And they actually were destroying documents like odometer statements and title applications to try to cover up their tracks. This is freaking crazy. Like, I know a lot of shady corner lot dealers, and they've had their licenses for a long time. They're not pulling this kind of stuff. This is a publicly traded company, and Carvana is pulling this crap. And yet there's like large companies advising that Carvana is a stock to buy, and they're on their way up. Like I sometimes I don't understand the financial world, because there's a lot of people in fancy suits with big degrees making a ton of money that just can't see the writing on the wall. Their stock this week is under $20, which it hasn't been since 2018, I think it was. I mean, it's the first time in 4 to 5 years that it's been this low. It's almost at an all-time low. I think their IPO is at like 13 or 14 bucks. So, yeah, I'm continuing on my track that Carvana is going down in flames. They're going to file bankruptcy at some point, and they should. And to follow up on last week, we were talking about pineapples and upside down pineapples being a symbol of swingers, I guess. It's like the official logo of Newport, Rhode Island. So I don't know, if you live there, maybe you like a good time. But Jason Adkins commented, and I missed it last week, that pink flamingos in your yard are also a sign of like, I like to have a good time. Yes. Which, that is complete horse crap, right? Maybe in trailer parks, man, that's not I have a good time. That's like, I've got high class. That's like the Bentley of, the manicure lawn. That's what up in Maine, I think it means a totally different thing. I grew up in Maine, and we had pink flamingos in our yard, and I was homeschooled, and my parents, they didn't like to have that kind of a good time. They were straight-laced. So I don't get this whole pink flamingo thing. Maybe it means something different out in the Midwest, but I always thought it was just like, hey, I'm a classy redneck. They had it out front of their Airstream trailer. Come on. It's on. Anyway, Tyler.
I'm trying to process all this. There's a couple of very nice neighbors I had growing up that had pink flamingos in their front yard, and I'm starting to think about them a little bit differently.
Did you live in the country?
No, I lived in Streetsboro. It's like
Streetsboro's a friggin' country of the Ohio suburbs.
it's the
Come
fanciest
on.
truck stop in the area.
It's like Streets Tucky.
100%.
I don't buy the pink flamingo thing.
I don't
I'm
buy
sorry.
the pineapple thing.
I don't
It
buy
was all
either
over
of them.
keychains and all this at all these like stores that I saw. Like,
I've had swingers approach me before,
Ooh, somebody's
and none
bragging.
of them were like, "Hey, do you want some pineapple?" What? It's what?
Ethan is not happy with the
But-
direction this is going.
It's fruit. It's not a secret signal. Anyway,
It's fruit.
speaking of scams, since everybody loves scams, there was a phishing scandal out of Ohio last week. If you haven't heard about this, you live under a rock, because my wife has heard about it and she has no interest in fishing. Heck, I have no interest in fishing and I heard about it. Who wants to go sit in a boat all day and not move fast? So these two guys.
Yes.
What's that?
It's a great story.
It is a great
It's a
story.
great
So these
story.
guys, apparently they're multiple world champions or whatever, league champions, catching the heaviest fish, and a lot of people had been suspicious, kind of called BS, and it had gone somewhat unnoticed. But I guess last year they sort of got caught, but there was no smoking gun. And these two guys did a media blitz PR thing and released this statement or video or whatever that their reputation matters more than anything else and they would never cheat. Yeah, well, I'm telling you, the louder you yell about not being a liar, the more likely you're a liar. Because this year, their fish that were the same size as everybody else's were like a pound heavier, and the official cut open the fish and they found lead weights in the fish. And they had put like fillets of other fish in between the lead weights so they wouldn't like bang together and it wouldn't be obvious. But apparently it was obvious. And they had won tens of thousands of dollars in prizes, and they had won a boat last year at the competition, but they had it taken away because they failed a lie detector test, which I guess everybody who wins this competition in a certain league has to take a lie detector test as fairly standard practice. But again, that wasn't enough of a smoking gun. I mean, a lie detector test isn't admissible in court, but it's enough to disqualify you from a win, from a free bass boat. But yeah, when they pulled the lead weights out of these fish, everybody went ballistic because they went ballistic, right? Lead balls in there. Because they knew they had been cheating this whole time. Just this was the first proof. So anyway, I always say that we don't talk about anything on this show unless it's relevant to cars or at least tangentially related. So I'm not sure how this is actually tangentially related to cars or cannonballing. I'll let you all make the connection, figure it out. But yeah, these two guys, they yelled really, really loud about being honest and not cheating. And they got away with it for a long time until they didn't. They got called out. Anyway, yes. Who's winning a t-shirt?
Oh, right. So Sam S. again asks, what was your experience like driving west on I-70 past Denver on your Cannonball Run? Is that a interesting area?
Yeah, so people think that going out west in a Cannonball, like that's where you make up all your time. It's just the wild open west, no traffic, and there's nothing but traffic and police, and there's 2-lane roads everywhere. But once you get past Denver, you have the Vail Pass, which could snow in July and get shut down, or a truck spills a crate of cartons of milk, I don't know, a load of milk, and they shut it down. They'll shut it down for almost anything, and it could be shut down for days. Anyway, but then even after you get through the pass, it's a ton of elevation change, a ton of tight corners, and it's just a long time of not being able to drive very fast. It's very technical driving. It's a lot of fun in a capable car, but it's not great for maintaining Cannonball speeds.
SC says, I think death-proof cover art when I see the Cannonball sticker on Doug's computer. Is there any connection between the two?
Death-proof
There's a couple Cannonball stickers.
I have no idea. They were designed by Arnie, so I don't think there's anything. I don't even know what death proof is. Is that fizzy water or whatever you guys drink?
No.
Liquid death.
Liquid
Yeah,
death?
that's liquid death. No relation. Just because that's death.
Really,
in the name.
really expensive friggin' canned
it's
water.
So good though.
Isn't
Is
Death
it
Proof,
really?
Yeah, Death Proof is a.
It's a movie with Kurt Russell. It's a Tarantino movie. Isn't it?
Okay. I was homeschooled. I'm just going to use that for everything. about
Maybe if
which
you
I
were
have
drinking
no
some
clue.
liquid death, you'd feel a little bit better right about now.
I'm going to pour this in a can and put a friggin' logo on it and charge you $18. And you're going to thank me for selling you $18 water because I came up with a stupid freaking name.
I love how upset this makes you.
It's what? How much does liquid death cost?
It's like $1.50, $2 a can, and it's like a
What is
pint
it? What
can.
are the ingredients?
What's so special?
Carbonation water, and you can get flavoring ones. I don't do the still water ones.
$2.50 for a can.
Where
Is
are you
it
getting
bitch and
it?
moan? Darn right it is. You have any better questions? That is not going to win a T-shirt.
I most appreciated how when we were in Amelia together this year, you refused to drink liquid death even though the tap water in the Airbnb was terrible. You're like, on principle, I refuse to
And
drink
I am a
this.
water snob.
Ugh. All right.
It's a ripoff. It's water.
In a can.
And there's a
Isn't it
skull on it,
specified?
Doug.
It's going to give you cancer, don't you know that? It's in aluminum.
It's no worse than the plastic.
Oh,
Anyway.
Depends who's doing the study.
All right. Boy, okay, back on the rails. Here we go. Daniel BC says, do you know anybody that has a Rush pre-bed for a 2008 Silverado crew cab? Short bed. His dark metallic blue.
Ask Mark Spence.
He's not winning the T-shirt. That's all I can say.
I think Ethan just wanted to hear me read that.
A Rush pre-bed?
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Is that like a Neil Peart themed bed liner? Does it do this?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Should I Google it?
I'm not sure what that is, but if anybody knows, the NBC is looking for it. All right, Nick Kruger says. All right, Nick
We are
Kruger
going off
says,
the rails.
you say in a sob in such a condescending way. It made it all the way across and back, and that's with
Hey,
Wes
Nick.
driving too.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Nick, how's that Saab now? How's that second motor on your Saab? Not so good? Oh, man. Love it when I win. Yeah. Absolutely, I say it in a condescending way. The whole world says anything about Saabs in a condescending way. Oh, gosh.
I seriously think
Didn't
Ethan,
Christian von Koenigsegg try to buy out Saab or something like that?
that sounds like something that's real.
Yeah.
He needs to do that just so they can mass produce a bunch of those 9.5 wagons that they never made, so I can buy one and then he can shut the company back down again. Those are gorgeous.
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah, Saab, if memory serves me correctly, Saab even failed in how they failed. because they had buyers for the company. And they're like, no, we got this. And they went down in a ball of flames instead of taking one of their bailouts.
I mean, look at Volvo. I know it's just easy because it's Swedish, but was it Geely that owns them now? And they're flourishing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Volvos are awesome.
Yeah.
He was looking for a rushed-free bed.
Oh, you mean rust-free?
He says rushed-free.
Rushed-free.
A rust-free bed.
Yeah,
I think
rust-free
he's looking
bed.
for a rust-free bread.
For it. So, not rush pre-bread. Or bad.
So confusing.
Pre-bread? Is that like
Rush pre-bed.
yeast?
A rust-free bed, I think is what
I
he's
think pre-bread.
Rush pre-bed.
Oh, boy. All right. Ethan is really messing with me.
I'd give
tonight.
him the t-shirt if he wasn't in Canada, which I'm assuming from his username. All right, a couple more, then we're going to the props and flops. This is going downhill quickly.
It's not. It's not going to get any better. This username is fantastic.
favorite episode.
Smirt Sosi Jilimizu Sloboda Naruto.
That's almost as good as Vajazzle McDilder.
That one was amazing.
That was the best username comment in the history of SwitchCast. Will never be topped.
This interesting person asks, what cars do the fishermen drive?
What cars do the fishermen drive? They all drive pickup trucks. Oh, those fishermen. Yeah. I'm
cheaters.
thinking of like lobster
Cheaters.
fishermen. I guarantee you they all drive friggin' Chevy Silverados, Ram pickup trucks, whatever.
That are not rust-free.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Not a Ford Mustang though.
Maybe a Corvette?
All right, one more, and then we're going to props and flops.
All right. Vampire Bear 13 asks, Doug, will you be going out as the Mexican Stig for Halloween? With at least 17 question marks.
I don't know what I'm going for as Halloween, but typically you do a costume, not yourself. So, I guess I did do the Mexican Stig a few years ago. It's easy because I have a 3-layer fire suit and it's super friggin' warm and it's always cold on Halloween. So, it's very possible. But, yeah, I don't know. Any other really noteworthy ones, or are we going to props and flops?
No, we should take this off into the sunset here.
Take this party to a different bar. All right. Well, one of you, I will pick a question. It's so hard. There's so many good ones. I will pick a question and send one of you a free T-shirt. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Props and flops brought to you by Switch Cars. Switch Cars is the enthusiast dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our hand-picked inventory at switchcars.com. Our pick of the week from Switch Cars inventory is nothing other. It can't be anything other than the My Corvette is Best Corvette 89 Corvette, red with red interior and knockoff Corvette C6 wheels and a Paxton supercharger. Heck friggin' yeah. It'll do burnouts for days, mostly not because of the power, but because the tires are 14 years old. I wouldn't expect anything less from a Corvette owner to not have up-to-date tires. So we'll get that rectified and find a new Corvette owner. So if you're interested, you want a lot of fun for less than 15 grand, hit us up. So our flop of the week comes to us from our very own Mark Spence and John McDonald over at Neo Classics. So they have a customer who claimed that they shipped the wrong car. So the customer came and inspected this car in person. It was a 450 SL Mercedes convertible. All of them are convertibles except the, well, I guess the SLC isn't because the C means coupe. But anyway, it was a convertible and it has the Pagoda matching hardtop. And the guy was sent photos of the car with the top up, the top down, and with the hardtop installed. But he didn't see it in person with the hardtop installed. And he was informed before the buyer sent the shipper, the buyer was informed that the hardtop would be installed prior to shipping, because that's obviously the easiest way to send it is on the friggin' car. So he got the car on Monday with the hardtop on it, and since he got the car, he has barraged Neoclassics with no less than 20 phone calls and texts complaining that the wrong car was delivered because the one he received was quote-unquote not convertible. I didn't set myself up for the next line. I'm going to do this again. He said that the wrong car was delivered because the one he received was not convertible. Forgive me for saying it in an accent. That was an accident. Forgive me for saying it in an accent, but when you leave out articles, I have to assume you're Borat. This car is convertible, not. This car is convertible, pause, not. This car is convertible, not. All right, prop of the week. South Shore Auto Works, who is a previous flop of the week a long time ago. The owner of South Shore Auto Works called me this week. And it's not often someone calls to apologize, and I've personally been in the unenviable position of having to apologize. And let me tell you, it is far worse than being apologized to. I would rather somebody wrong me any day of the week than to wrong somebody else, because that is incredibly humbling. You have to eat crow. But anyway, South Shore Auto Works, the owner called me, and the backstory was I bought a Porsche 996 from them. It was nowhere near as represented. It was kind of rusty underneath. It was a very low mileage car and should have been perfect. And the contact there, the sales manager, basically just gave me a line of car salesman BS that, isn't worth repeating. And I lost my crap on him. So it would have been great if that guy had called me and actually realized the error of their ways, but let's be honest, car salesmen aren't going to. But the owner called me and said, hey, I realized that we had some of the wrong people at our place and things were not run the way I wanted them to, and that person is no longer with us. They've been fired, and we kind of cleaned house here because I want things done the right way. And I have a lot of respect for the guy that he actually took the time to call me and apologize. That's a very respectable move. It's a tough thing to do, and I get it. Not everybody that you hire is always going to put forth your particular values, and they may not always represent your company properly. But it's how you deal with it, and that guy. The owner of South Shore dealt with it properly, and totally give him a prop for that. So again, thank you guys so much for being with us for a year, and we look forward to another fantastic year of SwitchCast. With your help, it will be great. Thank you for sending me content, for sending me articles, questions, all the things that you guys do to make this show great. I'm just here with a friggin' microphone, and I'm made to sound good by my wonderful producer, Ethan, and a little bit of liquid courage here rather than liquid death. Thank you to our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, Switch Cars, Celebrity Machines, Stephen Home Woodworking, and Nathan's Detailing. Thank you again to my wonderful producer, Ethan Hufnagel, for making all of this happen and work. Our bumper music is provided with permission from Emily and Ivory. You can stream the full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available Friday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts, hopefully without the technological foibles that happened at the beginning. It'll be a nice polished, edited episode. As we always say, fix it in post. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look forward to edifying, educating, and entertaining you on the drive of your life. I got all 3 E's right.